Hello, my name is Jessica Holes, and I'm here to tell you about my research study on standards-based grading. I currently have my bachelor's degree in English, and I'm going back to get my master's degree. I teach freshman English at a urban high school. The title of my study is Standards-Based versus Traditional-Based Grading, which one has more influence on the proficiency of work and failure rate of at-risk students. Before I dive into my study, I want to tell you the difference between the two styles of grading. Standards-based grading uses standard indicators and rubrics to help grade, and it is more objective. Traditional-based grading uses an answer key and grades for correctness on assignments, and it can be more subjective. Students are being affected negatively with the current grading system of traditional-based grading because anything can be graded. Anything from them learning the content to them actually learning it to their attendance, effort, and participation in class as well. Another problem is that students' grades in the classroom are improving, but their grades on standardized tests are not. I chose this study because last year was the first time that I taught and graded using standards-based grading, and the qualitative data that I collected showed promise, so I wanted to see if the quantitative data showed as much promise as the qualitative. Students are starting to develop a negative attitude towards school. They used to view it as a place of learning and opportunity and to take risks. Now they view it as a way to earn grades, and those grades are a necessity to help predict how they're going to do in life after school, whether it be going to college and being successful or how successful they're going to be at their jobs. They also are not taking risks as much in the classroom. They view it as a non-option because they are scared and fear failing if they take those risks. And that's happening because of all the times they're told, you're incorrect, this is wrong, you need to redo this. And so students who already have a low self-efficacy, this becomes worse for them because they start to focus more on the inabilities in the classroom and they shy away from taking risks. And when students take risks, they make mistakes and they learn from those mistakes, and so now they're not learning as much or as deep as they should be. According to Piaget and Vygotsky, their theories believe that they should have classrooms be student-centered, and students should construct their own knowledge, and they should be constructing their own knowledge and being taught at a level that meets their needs, not everyone else's needs. But the way classrooms are set up with traditional-based grading, everyone's learning the same content at the same time, they're learning it all at the same level and given the same assignments, so that does not mesh well with those theories. In a traditional-based grading, grades are given percentage-wise, and they are graded on every single assignment. Because if you put an assignment in the grade book, you have to give a grade for it. You can't just leave it blank. Those assignment grades are based off directions. They're averaged with other assignments. So if this is a test to show what they actually learned, that's averaged with an assignment to show, hey, I'm learning this stuff. And they are given zeros for assignments that they don't turn in. That can skew the data. For instance, if a student earns a 100, an 80, and a 0 on an assignment, the averages together to a 60%, which would be about a D or an F depending on your grading scale. That is not indicative of how the student is actually doing in the classroom when they're turning in A and B quality work. In a standards-based grading, that doesn't happen because grades are not reported holistically, they're reported as standards. And when they do that, communication is stronger between teacher to student, teacher to district members, teacher to other teachers, teacher to parents, because when you look at the grade book, it shows what students actually know and what they don't know. For instance, if I put in a standards grades for a narrative and the student was proficient on it, but they are below basic on a research paper, it's not going to show an average grade. It's going to show, hey, they understand narratives, but they're struggling in research. And so it's a visual tool on their progress towards learning. It's a good visual aid for everyone. Both teachers and students can benefit from the use of standards-based grading because it uses rubrics to help guide the grading, which makes it a quicker grading for teachers and more objective. And then for students, they're going to be complaining less because they know exactly what they need to do because they look at the rubric, they look at the assignment, and they can see where they need to aim for that level of understanding. The problem statement that I had to begin this study was that students were graduating high school without meeting or understanding the required standards because grades are averaged together, so they might not have passed the research stuff, but they passed that narrative, averaged to a C, they passed the class. But they aren't passing those standards that the district says that they need to pass, or the country says that they need to pass in order to pass high school. The question that guided my study was, does standards-based grading improve the quality of student work? And this study helped fulfill the gap on research with standards-based grading, because a lot of the studies that I found were all college-based, and they weren't for at-risk students, and they weren't for students in this country. So this study will help fulfill all those gaps. I had two hypotheses. One was that students who are graded by teachers using standards would show improved proficiency with a GPA of a 2.0 or higher in comparison to those students who were taught in a traditional way. And the other hypothesis was that less at-risk students will have a GPA of a 1.0 or lower in a standards-based grading classroom than a traditional-based grading classroom. I conducted a quasi-experimental study, and during that study I was in an urban community high school where the community teaches 9,125 students, and according to that report, 1,220 of them were at my study site, with 64% of those students qualifying for free and reduced lunch. So as the study suggests, I teach at-risk students. In the control group, there were 14 students, and 85% of them were at risk. 57% of the students were Caucasian, 29 Hispanic, 7 were African American and Native American. They were taught in 70-minute class periods, and only some of the students were registered in some of the core classes. They weren't registered in all of the core classes at the same time. The experimental group had 15 students, 100% of them at risk. 60% of those were Caucasian, 13 Hispanic, 13 African American, and 13 of mixed race. They were taught in 60-minute class periods, and they were registered in all core classes at the same time. The materials that were used in the study were the curriculum map set up by the district that uses Common Core standards, and then all the teachers that taught their classes, as well as myself and the students who participated, used the Chromebooks that were issued by our district. And then to collect the data, I used Google Sheets and Google Forms, and then to hand out assignments, the teachers used Google Classroom, and then I used PowerSchool to collect the data on the grades from last year and the grades from this year on all the students in the study. And then, like I forgot to mention, that for the standards that were used, I only focus on the ones that were assessed between both groups during the study. I developed a questionnaire before the study began that helped me determine which students were at risk or not, and I used the definition of at risk that included if students were in special ed, if they were involved in criminal activity, if they failed grades in the past, what was their parent lifestyle at home, what was their income lifestyle, was English their first language or not. All of these things help determine if a student was at risk. And my questionnaire was valid because I only used the definition. I didn't add any extra questions to determine that. And then the questions were reliable because they were consistent. If the student said that they were special ed, then they had to justify what were they special ed in. They couldn't just say, yes, I'm special ed, and have no justification for it, which made it more reliable. To select the participants, I used that questionnaire because at the very end, they gave me permission or not to use them, and then I put their names, if I had permission, into the spreadsheet on Google, and then Google Random Generator helped me select those participants, so I was not biased. Then I collected data on their grades during the last school year in all their core classes, and then that gave me my starting point, and then the end point was the grades that I collected at the end of the trimester after grades were finalized in all core classes. I conducted 2 independent t-tests, one on final grades on the core classes individually, and then one on the GPA for their classes collectively. A 0.5 was set for the alpha level, and to have one hypothesis confirmed, I needed to have more students in the experimental group with a C or higher, and then for the other one, I needed more passing grades of the students in the experimental group than the control group. As you can see from the data here, last year the control group had a mean in English of a 2.1 and then a 2.2 for the experimental, so they were pretty close. Then the control group went up a little bit with a 2.2 for an average grade, but the experimental group went down to a 1.5. And as you can see from here, for the experimental group, most of the grades were in the C and the F range for their grades at the end of the trimester. And then the data for math, last year they had a 2.8 collective GPA for the control group and a 2.4 in the experimental. And then both groups went down. However, the experimental group had a higher grade average with a 1.6, and then the control group had a 1.2. According to this data here, the experimental group, most of the grades were in the B, C, and D range, and they didn't have a single F. For the science data from last year, they had a 1.7 average grade for the control group and a 2.7 for the experimental group. Then the groups flip-flopped with a 2-point average grade for the control group and a 1-point grade for the experimental group in science. And according to the data here, most of the grades were in the C and D range for science. And then for history, last year they had a grade point average of a 2.7 for the control group, and then for the experimental group they had a 2.6. The control group went up to a 2.8 this year, and then the experimental group went down to a 2-point average grade in history. And then according to the data here, they didn't have a single D in either group. Most of the grades were in the B and F range for the experimental group. And then overall GPA, last year they had a 2.3 for the control group and a 2.5, so the experimental group had a higher GPA. However, both groups went down, with the control group being at a 2.1, and then the experimental group had an average GPA of a 1.7 this year. My first hypothesis was not founded true for 3 of the 4 core classes. Math was the only one where they had a higher grade point average in that class than any of the others. And then the second hypothesis was also not founded because more students in the experimental group had a GPA of a 1.0 or lower. The data also did not support traditional based grading, as you saw, because the grades went down in the control groups as well. My study did align with past research because the research shows that math scores had a stronger performance in high school when this was used, and that was indicative of my research as well. I found out that math had a stronger performance in that class. It also supported the student-centered theory because teachers used choice and rubrics in the classroom, which had students be in control of their learning. The grades were also student-centered because they showed quality of knowledge of the assignments that they were turning in. The study also aligned with theory, but with deeper understanding, but it did not support it because students chose to have a surface level understanding, and that is evident because you saw that most of the grades were C's and below in all of the core classes. The study had implications for students because they were in charge of their own learning. They could dive as deep into the content as they would like. They could make corrections to their misconceptions in learning, and it showed what they actually knew, not the effort that they put in. It also had implications for teachers because it forced them to understand how standard-based grading worked and how the results would come out, and it would show the strengths and weaknesses of their students in the classroom, and the grading is more objective. Participants was a limitation in my study because 85% of the students were at risk in the control group and 100% in the experimental. This is a limitation because students who are at risk struggle more in the classroom, and so that could have been why the grades were lower in the experimental group. The sample size was a limitation too because of trimester scheduling. 9 out of 14 of the control group students were in science and history and only 7 in math. They weren't in all of the core classes, and so that could have skewed the data as well. The grading system was also a limitation because of the grade system that we use is called PowerSchool. It averages grades together. Well, standards-based grading isn't an average grade. I need a system that is supported where I can just put standards in individually. Recommendations for future research is have at-risk students and non-at-risk students in both groups equal. You should have a study set that uses semesters, so that could help maintain the sample size. And it needs a grading system that is conducive to adding in standards and not average grades. so you can actually see how the students are doing and not how they're averaging together.